Hello, everybody, and welcome back. We are going to be working on Module 3 this week. Module 3 is really going to focus on understanding the elements of creativity. And I believe there's just 2 assignments plus your creativity project this week. Again, if you need to review or look at the syllabus, you can click this link here. If you want an overview of our creativity project, you can click this button here. And if you need our Teams link, and it is located in many locations, but this is one, you can click here. As a reminder, we do meet on Tuesdays from 2 to 3 for the remainder of the summer. So I'm going to go ahead and click Module 3. And on our overview page, this is going to give us an overview of what to expect in Module 3. As I scroll down, we have our key question. And we're really going to be talking about where is creativity. We're going to talk about inhibiting creativity. Do we force it on our kids? Do we try to include creativity? Or do we not value that at all? So where can we see creativity in ourselves, in our students, and in our curriculum? Some key concepts we're going to go over during this module are looking at the elements of creativity, and then some characteristics that are associated with creativity. Some might surprise you, some might make complete sense, but just kind of looking at that in more detail. Again, we have our Teams link here. I will post this video as soon as it's complete. And then here is what our week looks like, or really our module. So the first thing you're going to do is a creativity warm-up. We will have a creativity warm-up with every single module. I just want to remind you, with these creativity warm-ups and our exit tickets, both of these items, I tried to create them in a way that you could utilize these strategies or creativity tools in your own classroom. So take them, modify them, remember them, enjoy them, because kids really love the out-of-the-box thinking. So we'll have our warm-up. Our first assignment 6 for Module 3, is facilitating and inhibiting creativity. Do we facilitate that? Do we encourage it? Or do we kind of squash that creativity? We're going to respond to some questions and upload. And then you're going to do a mini case study of a creative person. And I understand that we are not in class right now. We are in the summer, but we can still do that with the environment that we're in currently. Then we're going to do step 2 of our creativity project, and we're going to have an exit ticket. So this week's a little bit lighter than the first 2 modules. Here at the bottom, excuse me, we have some additional readings and resources. So these are not necessarily included in our assignments in mandatory readings. However, they are in addition. So they are going to support Module 3. I would highly suggest that you read through them, that you take a look at them, that you be familiar with them, because although they may not be relevant to the exact activity or assignment for this week, they may be really relevant for you when you go apply this later on in your classroom and what you've learned with Gifted. Okay, so let's start with our creativity warm-up. All right, so excuses. Don't burn calories. So we are working on the creativity skill, creative blockers. And this is kind of a fun one, and should be pretty short, but you're going to make up at least 5 absolutely ridiculous, preposterous blocks to creativity. This means things that might stop you from thinking creatively or reasons to not be more creative. So why would you tell someone to not be creative? So for example, someone switched my coffee to decaf. There are lots of other ones. I don't want to give you too much there, but you're going to list 5 in this discussion post. You're just going to press reply. You're going to list your 5 really ridiculous reasons as to why you don't think someone should be creative or think creative. Sometimes this is challenging because I'm asking you to do the opposite of what we believe to be true, but that really stretches our thinking. So I'm going to go next to our first assignment, assignment 6. So assignment 6 is worth 4 points. However, it is a complete or incomplete grade like all of our assignments are. So as long as you follow these directions exactly, and following the master's level expectations, you will get a complete course or a complete grade. If you do not meet the expectation that is listed in this assignment, I will be marking it as a 0 and asking you to make modifications and resubmit. Okay, so facilitating and inhibiting creativity. There are some resources I want you to take a look at before you start this activity. Article 1, mental block. It's fantastic. I think this one's short. Yep, it's just 3 pages. It's actually kind of small. It won't let me zoom out. Or I'm sorry, it's big. It was taken out of a book. So we for copyright purposes cannot take all of it. So you can print it if you want, or you can download the PDF. It kind of comes up big on this screen. But it has lots of different excuses in here. What blocks us, some barriers to creativity. A great resource for our kids who we think aren't being creative, or you have a notion of what creativity should look like and how to get those kids out of that mental block sometimes. Good, short, easy read. Then we have this article number 2, which is a PDF, and these are our handy dandy checklists, or how do we kill ideas. These are things sometimes, we can say that really squash our creativity or our excitement sometimes, or problem solving. And even myself as a mom have caught myself saying a few things along these lines before as a parent, and seeing how that has squashed my own child outside of just the classroom environment. So it was kind of eye-opening to me to read some of these, and just to remember there are other ways to phrase what we want our students to do other than being so direct. And of course, sometimes we need to be direct when we're teaching, but we need to pose it in our responses to our students with questions. So for example, it will cost too much. Well, how could you might ask your students, how are you going to fund this project? Instead of saying no, because when you say it costs too much, it feels like a no. And that kind of puts a wall up. At least for me, that puts a wall up. And I can imagine that would be the same for our students. So rephrasing that, how are you going to fund this project? Or I really like where you're thinking. Have you thought about the cost it's going to take? And so posing it to your students in a way that encourages them to think differently about it. And the answer is still probably no if they can't figure it out, but at least they understand why, or they can process through it, or they can come up with other solutions or other ideas. So really read through those. If you're a parent, it might hit you a little bit. It sure did for me sometimes. I try really, really hard as a mom to ensure that I am being open-minded and allowing my daughter to do the problem solving, so prodding her and having her ask questions. Okay, so then there's this video. We have watched at least one of these clips from the American Psychological Association about creativity in the classroom. Watch this one. It'll really talk about those barriers that we talk about in creativity. And then what you're going to do is fill out this document. I've linked the document here. It's a Word document, so you can download it to your desktop, wherever you're saving your files. And you're going to answer these 7 questions. So I kind of took the 7 questions out of the document and posted them here so you can be thinking about them. I often know that I read these questions before I actually read the article, so I know what I should and shouldn't be thinking about. But here's what you're going to be thinking and responding to the best of your ability. 1. Which 4 or 5 barriers or mental blocks do you hear the most from others? So respond to that. You will read through your articles and watch that video, and that will help you respond to that question. And 2, which do you use the most that stifles your own creativity? So let's now make it personal. What excuse do you tell yourself that stops you from being creative? What barriers and blocks do you add to your own life? 3, which have you used in the past that may have stifled students' creativity? I'm sure we are all guilty of some of those, whether it's out of our own frustration, out of time, pacing guides, all of that. But what have we used, that really stopped our students' creativity? 4, Which idea squelchers do you think are the most common? And give me a why. 5, which do you use? 6, what are 2 phrases you can say to facilitate creative thinking when an unexpected idea pops up? So taking that list from like this one right here, Article 2, and rephrasing some of those like I did with the money, and that you could use when something along those lines come up. Do it with, it says at least 2. You can do more than 2 in this response. It really helps you think and twist your thinking in a more positive way, or a way that encourages that critical out of the box thinking. And then 7, what would you say to a child or adult who says, I'm not creative? So hopefully at this point, we are in module 3, you have understood that creativity isn't the stereotype of being artistic or a good singer, which is what we think we believe to be true, but creativity is the way we think. So how would you respond to a student or an adult who says that? And think about a response you might actually say to your students or your child or a family member maybe. Make that personal, and then try and remember that, because I'm sure, and I have in my years of teaching heard that a lot, well, I'm just not creative. And, we all respond to that just a little bit differently. So again, remember, your responses need to be master's level, thoughtful, based on information you read, and in complete sentences, please. That is important. I know that like question number 1 asks you to make a list. That's fine, those are phrases, but when I'm asking you for a more detailed response, please make sure that you are responding thoughtfully and in complete sentences. So then for step 3, what are you submitting? You're uploading this completed document to the best of your ability. You're submitting that for me to read, and I will give you a grade for that. Okay, so the next activity and assignment that I'm having you do in module 3 is a case study of a creative person. So what you're going to be doing is you're going to be looking at characteristics and behaviors of creative people. So a creative person may not do well like in a specials class at school, but does really well maybe in like engineering or problem solving or coming up with solutions. So we want to see what are these different ways based on each person, who they are, their personality, what makes them creative, and what are those characteristics and behaviors that we can start to look at and identify in our gifted students or in our general ed students, in people we know outside of school, to help not just identify them, but encourage them in their strengths or what you notice about them. So this is multi-step. You will first read your assignments, and then you're going to complete a small case study. Or I said assigned. Read your assigned readings. So step 1, there are 3 documents in one website that I want you to look at. These are resources that you're actively going to use. The Divergent Thinker, wait for this to load, is great. It's from the Gifted Resource Center. And it really talks about what is a divergent thinker, what does that look like, what is the history of divergent thinkers, and how can we identify this? And sometimes I like what this says. People who are divergent thinkers are novel thinkers. This means they don't first think of the common assumptions most others use in making decisions. Because they think differently, they act differently. What seems to be common sense to most does not seem so to the divergent thinker. I see that a lot. I work at a full-time gifted center. What we think to be normal and the way we think students should be acting or reacting to assignments or treating each other is not always the case. And so this, I think, will hopefully give you a different perspective shift. So that's 4 pages. Go ahead and read through that article. And then this is the 10 characteristics of a gifted person. Wait for this to load. It's a loose article, but it's good. Creative people are energetic but focused. Sometimes I know that some of the most creative people I encounter are actually kind of messy and disorganized, but super creative. Creative people are smart but also naive. Creative people are playful yet disciplined. Creative people are realistic dreamers. Creative people are extroverted and introverted. Creative people are proud yet modest. Creative people are not weighed down by rigid gender roles. Creative people are conservative yet rebellious. Creative people are passionate but objective about their work. And creative people are just sensitive and open to experience but happy and joyful. So, great article. It gives you a different perspective on how someone can be creative in the real world. And then this one right here, creative thinking behaviors. I really hope you enjoy the articles from this module because they were very hand selected to really help you think. And this one here is pretty generic. We have our cognitive behaviors, and this actually aligns with the 4 components of creativity. So these are the elements. When we talked about our objectives and kind of things you're talking about those elements of creativity. And this is really explicitly taught in the Gifted Pullout curriculum and a little bit in our full-time Gifted Centers as well. But these 4 cognitive behaviors of fluency, flexibility, originality, and elaboration are so important. These are hands-on things that kids can actively use, practice, and encourage that type of cognitive behavior. I teach it explicitly. I have taught it explicitly. I still do it in my media program. I think it's important for all students. This should be something that you are doing on a daily basis to encourage and promote creativity. Not all of them at the same time, but you can do them individually, 1 a week, 1 a day. They're very easy. There are so many books and resources out there to support the 4 components of creativity. Some old, some new. I would just really print this out, put it in your planning binder, hold on to this article because it's great. And then outside the 4 components that are on the first page, these are additional behaviors, but these are effective behaviors. So things that we might talk about in our social emotional curriculum, or things that look a little bit different that are a part of projects, like risk-taking, complexity, curiosity, imagination, awareness. Those fall on more of the effective behaviors, and it really roots a student in kind of to their core. So these 2 together are really great, the effective and cognitive. Fantastic resource. And then there is this article website. It's actually the Climber episode about the 10 dimensions of a creative person. You've listened to a couple of her podcasts already. This is another one. It's fantastic. Okay, so then you're going to complete a case study. And I think I put all the steps right here. But you're going to do, it's informal, of a case study of a person you think is a creative. Now, I understand that you might not be able to fully observe someone for 3 to 4 days. Some of you are in summer school, some of you have families, but you might have to think about a student that was in your classroom based on what you know this past school year. That is your last resort. The best resort is find someone recent in the next week or 2 who you can watch. You can fill out this case study. You can mark some accurate observations, and you can interview that person. So do the best you can. Your last resort is to think about a student in your classroom. But if at all possible, find someone in your life that you can do this with. I'm going to open this document so that you can see it. So here in this document, you're going to do a brief informal case study of someone who you think is creative. You're going to observe them for 3 to 4 days in a variety of settings while engaged in a variety of activities. Then you're going to interview that person, take some notes. So, first thing, you want to write a summary of your subject. Who are they? You don't have to use their real name. That's perfectly fine. What are their interests? What do they like? What do you notice about them? Like, just who are they? The second thing is you're going to summarize your observations, including the responses to your interview questions, and justify as to whether this person meets the characteristics of a creative person. So you're going to take all your observations in the next couple days, or the few days that you take to do this, And you're going to say, does this person meet the characteristics of a creative person? And the answer might be no. You might have thought originally they were creative, and now you've looked at this information, you're like, maybe they're not. That's okay. 3, how is your creativity encouraged or discouraged? What supports or distracts you as you engage in creative pursuits? So these questions 3 and 4, which this document looks like it got a little funny, are the questions I want you to interview. So the person you're going to ask, when you interview that person, you're going to say, how is your creativity encouraged or discouraged? And you're going to ask, what supports or distracts you as you engage in creative pursuits? Those are the 2 questions I want you to ask as the interview piece. So the first two questions are what your summary of your observations, and then 3 and 4 are your direct interview questions. I'm not sure why that document got mixed up, but it's fine. So that's what I want you to do. It should, take a couple of days just for observation, but really think about those articles. So that's what you're going to submit. Then we're going to quickly talk about ideation, and this is the next step in our creativity project. And here you're going to listen to Amy Clymer's podcast about ideate. And then what you're going to do is you're going to look at your CPS workbook, pages 6, 7, and 10. And I think only one of them asked you to do something to type in. The rest of them are like, here's how you are creative and take notes and brainstorm. And it really, ideate is brainstorming. First, we listed ideas. We kind of broke down our ideas of ones we thought were most interesting to us for a creative pursuit. But now, based on your challenge statement, you're going to now develop some ideas based on your challenge statement, which is why I told you in Module 2, make sure your challenge statement is kind of general, because you don't want it so specific that you can't break that down into more ideas. This creative problem-solving process, it does take time, and we want you thinking about and processing through the creative problem-solving process. So typically, this is a step where we would have you have incubation time. So like 2 weeks worth of sitting down and just thinking about some ideas. We don't have the time this summer, so I'm going to give you 1 week to think. So near the end of the week, so maybe over the weekend, you might then say, okay, I haven't really thought about it. I'm going to come at my idea with some fresh ideas, or my challenge statement with fresh ideas. And now I can come up with my best ideas. And so I did have an example for you so that you know what you need to submit. I don't think you're submitting a Word document. You can just type it literally right into the text box. And so here's your example. If my challenge statement was, wouldn't it be nice if I could create a budget-friendly wedding that would make my fiance, my family, and myself happy? I mean, it sounds great. Okay, but I need to break that down a little further. My ideas, my brainstorming needs to be broken down into smaller chunks, because how will I do that, right? Like, it's a great idea, but I need to brainstorm some ways in which I can accomplish that task. So my first idea. All right, I'm going to attend some local bridal expos. I might invite my mom to attend, and then we can get ideas together, and then we can brainstorm together. Idea 2, contact destination wedding consultants. Maybe I want to look at destinations that take some of the cost of the couple off and allow friends and family to bond as part of the experience. So maybe be open to a destination wedding. And then idea 3, studying website and apps like theknot.com, reading blogs and reviews of those who have done low-cost, budget-friendly wedding ideas. So those are 3 ways that I could potentially accomplish a budget-friendly wedding if that was my summer project, to come up and plan a budget-friendly wedding. Okay, so you're going to submit again your challenge statement and 3 to 5 ideas that you would like to further develop in this ideate stage. Okay, and the last thing for Module 3 is our exit ticket. And so, where is creativity is our question. And in one paragraph, you're going to speak to where creativity is. 3 to 5 sentences. Where do you find creativity? You can add and use anything from the articles that you've read this week. So that's where we're at, and I hope that you have enjoyed modules 1 and 2 and are ready for module 3. Make sure you reach out to me, email me if you have any questions, and I look forward to module 4.